Hi, Namaste. Welcome to IAS TOS. In this video, I'm going to talk about the sexual violence in the conflict zone. Sexual violence in the conflict zone. When you talk about the areas which are in conflict, the world map is dotted with many red spots. You talk about Syria, you talk about the Central African Republic, you talk about Yemen, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sudan, whatnot. Okay. Now, this conflict zone, you see, for these religious fanatics, no act is complete or pure without involving any sexual violence. So it is must for them to have some kind of sexual violence as a fun or as a part of their larger goal or whatever it is. In June 2014, a global summit was held in London. The venue was London, and in this summit, world leader talked about many things, and there was a renewed commitment towards ending the sexual violence in the conflict zone. And due to that, we have seen that in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, we have seen that there is a presidential candidate, directly presidential candidate to look into the issues related to the sexual violence in the conflict zone. And at the same time, when it's in Colombia peace process, you see the sexually abused in a long civil war, whoever was sexually abused, now they have their say in the peace process. Now, yes, some progress had been made, but when we look at the world map again, we'll see in Syria, we see in Nigeria, we see in the territory held by Islamic State and ISIL. Now, you talk about in Syria, it's the gender neutral violence. I mean, it can happen to anyone, a boy, girl, male, female. In Nigeria, we have seen the Bring Back Our Girls campaign last year, the Boko Haram. Boko Haram. It is to capture the girls and keep them under the veil is a part of their larger ideology. And ISIL, we have seen the Yazidi women, which we see in the newspaper and the TV reports. Yazidi women and other women, they are facing a serious traumatic life in these regions. So there is a need for another commitment to do away with this sexual violence. Now, what can be done? Now, the UN report talks about a few things. It says that number one, sexual violence is a tool to persecute minorities. So, for the exploitation of minorities, sexual violence is being used as a tool. Then, people are targeted because of their sexual orientation. Number three, those who are displaced due to the conflicts, they are very highly vulnerable. They are the most vulnerable people. There always is a stigma attached to sharing what had happened if there was any sexual violence of any person in the community. And then number five, there are around 45 groups which are actively involved in committing these kind of crimes. And unfortunately, shamefully, these organizations are not only the religious fanatics organizations, the state forces. State forces are also involved. There are many state forces which are responsible for the sexual violence. So what can be done? We should come to the main theme. What can be done? What should be done? What should be done? It's a challenge. The report talks about number one, there is an urgent need to build the military and the civilian justice system. If there is no justice system, people will not be afraid of anything. So military and civil justice system is the need of the hour, first need of the hour. Alright. Then comes institutional safeguard against impunity. When we say that the institutional safeguards against impunity, it means those who are working with the armed forces, they think that whatever act they do in their official capacity, that would not be questioned in the court of law. But this impunity must be questioned through the institutional safeguard. So bring in harsher punishment. If an army person is involved in committing sexual violence, the person should be tried as a criminal. I mean, what the sexual act has to do with the protection of a territory or anything else? Now, third thing this report talks about is the inclusion of sexual violence in the treaties and peace process. Treaties and peace process. Wherein what happens is at the end of any conflict, there's an amnesty. Now, under this amnesty, those who have committed this kind of crime should be excluded. They should not be given the general amnesty. They should be tried as the criminals. Now, fourth things it talks about is there is a need to deploy the women peacekeepers in the conflict areas. Women peacekeepers. Then early warning system, if we can deploy the early warning system, regional early warning system. And number 6, it talks about the rebuilding lives of the survivors. Rebuilding lives of the survivors. That's what can be done. You can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/IAS. IAS.tos, right? Okay, bye bye, thank you. Have a nice time and keep on learning.